much more than, for example, Paris-Nice, for example. It wouldn't be as technical, the running in the stage finishes at all, or anything like the Torino Adriatico.
But also, with now 25 kilometres to go and a lovely, nice, smooth road, it does seem when they go through some of these little villages that the road surfaces haven't been touched for yonks. They've still got, I won't say cobbles all the way, but it's not always that that smooth and well engineered, is it?
I know
it varies from place to place.
It varies, yes, depending on what part of Italy you're in. I think if you go, the more you go south. I remember when I did the tour of Italy the one year, when you went south of Rome, the roads were very, very poor, and a lot of holes, potholes everywhere. But when you race up north, I think you're in quite good roads. The surface is quite good. I think it's the same for all tours in the Tour of France as well. Although they do a lot of repairing on the roads before the Tour of France come along, but when you're in the Alps, for example, the roads are much better than they are in the Pyrenees. I think they're much more smooth, they're not as bumpy, so I think it's much the same in all countries.
Well, on much better roads, because we are right up north on the stage there. We're going through the province of Asti. We've been through the province of Alessandria. We started out in the province of Pavia this morning. So if you're looking on your maps, you'll see there in the Provincia di Asti where we're going. We've been through the Intergiro and coming off the top of that climb with less than 25 kilometres to go, beginning to move in towards Montebello, Montegrosso d'Asti. And it's a course that takes them around in a big circuit. They've been over in a sort of northern direction, come back running south for that sprint for the Intergiro at Raceta Tanaro, and then running round in the sort of general westerly direction before we hit the right turn and go straight back up into Asti. So we'll be there before long, and then that right turn up in towards Asti will be taking them back up north again into this delightful small town where the spectators waiting to see them come on through here. We've been through some interesting territory, but the riders just desperate to get something in the bag before we hit the climb tomorrow. Sean, coming down to a sprint, looking back to the sprint that we had the other day, which when covered in bruises and cuts and terrible state. In fact, his back looked like a big raw steak when Pataki beat Jimmy Casper and Sferrada. Casper today? Chance?
Yes, I think Casper has a chance today. First of all, he's quite good on short stages, and today being 117 kilometres, I think it's it's a stage that suits him. The other thing is he's better today. He's 25 today, and he's been talking about this stage for a number of days that he's going to have a go for it. The other thing is I think he's getting better as this race go on. We see him 2 days ago finishing second. I think he's getting better shape, getting better sensation. So I'd not be surprised today if he pulled off the stage.
There are stories, I've heard it said that on one's birthday one performs better or round about one's birthday than at other times, and we've seen it so many times on maybe just wanting to celebrate the birthday. We've seen, there's confirmation, was Baxter ahead of DiBiase Sferrada into third spot. Did you have any experience like that when near your birthday you were more successful? Well, you've had other success anyway. Was it something where you suddenly found you were going better? Because your birthday was only a few days ago, wasn't it? 24th?
Yes, 21st. Yes, I
send all cards to Eurosport in London, 84 Theobald's Road, London WC1. And Sean will happily put on his mantelpiece. Don't let the cat out of the bag. Sorry, Sean, because my birthday was just a few days before. So we are. We want to have cake when we finish with candles on the top, and you can blow them out. Right, I've confused you now, as I often do, and caused great embarrassment. Anything around about your birthday? Did you do anything which you said, hey?
Den Ruhetag angerechnet noch einmal 703 Kilometer. Am Sonntag geht es dem Ende entgegen. Angelo Furlan aus dem Team Alessio mit der Startnummer 3. Er würde gerne eine Etappe gewinnen, war schon immer nah dran, einmal Etappendritter, aber den Sieg, den hat er bisher noch nicht.
With City Cycling Shoes.
Inside those final 20 kilometres, in fact, as we go now, it's only 15 kilometres to go in towards the finish of the race today. That's going to be, about 10 miles of racing left, and that's going to be fairly quick. They'll be averaging something like 42 kilometres an hour. At the back here, the factory riders have done their job. The Norwegian champion on the right-hand side, together with his teammates, working hard to keep Magnus Backstedt in the fray for the Intergiro. It was won by Magnus Backstedt. Biasi was second, and in third spot was Ferrada. Over the first climb, or the only climb we've had today, it was Freddy Gonzalez that got that one, so he's going to keep his green jersey through until the stage tomorrow. You can see just there the pink jersey of Simone, surrounded by the red jersey of his Psycho team, just looking after him as they go in towards the finish, as the sprinters teams will start to get themselves organised. The race heading in, well, we're going north to Asti, and if you're looking on your map from Asti, you'll see it wedged in between Alexandria and Torino. Mentioning that the man who owns, or is part, well, he owns the Pata Chips team, sorry, Pata Chips business, that he's got his nice red Ferrari. We're heading towards Turin, or that the Asti is near Turin, once the seat of the Italian royal family, but now the headquarters of the great Fiat company, and very well known to those of you interested in motor cars, and so many motor cars come from this part of the world, the delightful cars. Bradley Wiggins riding in this race today is looking forward to getting to Milan and going around near Turin, because his favourite film is The Italian Job, I understand, and of course that was full little Mini Coopers rocketing around the place. The Italians loving motor cars, and certainly I say that the man who owns the Pata Chips business, does he have to paint his car blue if Magnus takes that jersey through to the finish? We shall see as they're coming through this part of the world. It's a Piedmont, a big rambling part of the world, and we're just hearing that having difficulty showing the statistics of various, like Pataki, that we wanted to show you before we get in. I think that's Frank Hoy having a bit of a go at the moment. All these hats and goggles and things that makes it very difficult to pick up on your screen. So we've gone back. In fact, it's Back himself from the Danish team. Team Factors, I was talking about them, beginning to sort themselves out towards that sprint finish. The riders there in the blue and the white, right hand side of your screen, those are Fassa Bartolo. There in the white jerseys with that clover leaf, that dark blue one with the little red splodge on one of the four-leaf clovers, those are riders from the F de Jour team. But look, now there's 79. We just had a quick look at Bradley Wiggins, just mentioning about his Italian Job being his favourite film. Well, there he is, just trailing on to get ready to take his job to take through. There were another one behind. They're all there at the moment. The F de Jour riders. 72 is Kazar, 73 is Casper, 74 De Cruz, 75 De Praz, 76 Eisel, 77 Gaydon, 78 Roulet, and 79 Wiggins. So little Jimmy Casper, 73 on his back, with his team swarming round about him, making good line at the moment. Sean, I think that's. What do you think about those team tactics for the F de Jour at the moment?
Well, I think it's important to have as many teammates as possible around Casper, because that gives him a little bit more confidence, and it's good for him, because you know, he's a sprinter that he would need that. We see Pataki as well there; he's up there in contention. But Pataki, I think he's very experienced. He seemed to be able to position himself very well. Maybe Casper not as experienced as Pataki, and if he can get a very good lead out for the team, it would be very important for him.
And at the back, the Factor riders have done their little job of work for the day, so they can coast on into the finish. Hello, we've got the red flag up. Is it the red card? We got to go. What have we done now? It's not Mayday, is it? The red flag. We can start singing. How odd. He wants to get somebody out of the way, doesn't he? I think the commissaire is not very happy about something going on. There's awareness in the peloton. What's going on, Sean? Or is it just one of those things they're settling down?
Well, I think maybe he was just they were just going under a bridge there, and then there was an island in the middle of the road. Maybe he was giving the signal to the riders at the front of the bunch. It's not the normal procedure, but maybe in Italy they have some other way of giving the warnings that when there's a danger section on the road.
Kelestana getting stuck in again. He doesn't seem to have many of his teammates, does he, Pataki, Sean?
No, not actually in close contention, close around him here, but there's quite a few of them up on the front of the group here. So you know, there's quite a number of them ahead of him here. So if we look now, there's at least 3 or 4 on the front of the bunch here. So for the moment, it's the best place for Pataki, because if you're sitting in the 5th or 6th position here, you're actually taking a lot of wind. Where Pataki is in the middle of the group, and he's been sucked along by that group. So you don't burn as much energy staying up in the front. It's only the last number of kilometres that they have to move up to in the top 5 or 10 riders in the last 4 or 5 kilometres. That's when it's very important. So you know, it's the best position to be in at the moment, because you get you get pulled along by the group when you're sitting in the middle of it, as Pataki is doing, as we have seen there.
Would they expect him to be on the right-hand side or left-hand side? Because quite a big bunch of riders there. If they come up on the left and he's on the right, how does he get collected?
Well, I think Pataki, you know, he's able to look after himself quite well until it really starts turning it on. Because at the moment we see, you know, they're grouped up quite a lot here, the bunch. So it proves that the speed is not really high, and Pataki is sitting in the middle there. And as I said, you know, he gets sucked along in the group. So it's the best position, because if you're trying to stay up in the first 5 or 6, there's guys trying to move up and get in your place there. So for the moment, until the last 4 or 5 kilometres, I think that's where Pataki will stay, and then he will move up in the wheels of his teammates.
At the moment, it's a mishmash of riders on the front. There doesn't see any one team taking charge of it.
No, well, it's they're probably happy, the teams, that there's not only one team, and the Fassa-Bardolo guys are happy that you know, there's some of the other riders like the Francaise, the Giro, coming up there to do some of the work with them, and you know, they're quite happy with that, because they don't have to do it all on their own.
How does it change the thinking, though? Because we've seen the zebra stripes here. They were doing to set Cipollini up for his record-breaking 42 stages earlier on, and they were there. He's not there, so they're drifting out the frame. We're now seeing the after-Giro rise we never saw in the early sprints. So the only common denominator we've seen so far is the Fassa-Bardolo. As it shifts, who calls the shots? Because there's not, in this race, it's not been other. I mean, when Cipollini and the Psycho team, day after day after day, they were doing the same thing, and you only knew there was going to be one team in it. But now with losing McEwen out of the Lotto team, Brown out of the Panaria team when it comes to sprinting, Pataki's had his fall, Jimmy Casper's coming up here. This must be much more difficult to read.
Well, it's you know, it's not that difficult really for the guys, the riders there. Pataki, he knows exactly what the team are going to do, and the team know what Pataki, his tactics are. They know he's in there in the middle of that, in the group, just a little bit back, getting plenty of shelter. But you know, when you see Cipollini's team, that's normal. In the first number of days, they're up the front, and they're, you know, they are very, very concentrated on, you know, riding on the front, and it's also very important for Cipollini that he have the riders up there, because that gives him a morale boost. And as for Casper today, when he has a number of the FDG comp team on the front, well, that's, you know, very good for him. And I am sure Gaillant has been onto his riders and tell them, you know, lads, get up the front there, keep together, and, you know, show to Jimmy that you know, that they're there to help him, and we're going to do as much as we can for him, and, you know, give him a morale boost before he gets into the final sprint.
And that's one of the riders from the Fassa-Bardolo team doing the work at the front, as the riders from the greyish pants. There's Bradley Wiggins on the centre line, looking over his shoulder, just tracking down one of his teammates, doing exactly what Sean was saying, and he was just there behind Gaillant, past winner of the Paris-Roubaix, moving through, and he's not very happy, Gaillant, looking at that one. There's nothing abrasive with that, was it, Sean? He put his arm up and sort of drifted over. I didn't see me pushing and shoving, although they're closing the gap down the was it Tenax rider?
Well, I didn't see anything out of order there, but the Italian riders are they are a bit special. You know, they do a lot of
that's a nice word.
They do a lot of pushing, and especially when they're in Italy. I remember from the time I raced in Italy, the very minute you touch the Italians, they start shouting. But they're the guys who, you know, they're pushing all the time in line against you, and, you know, there's no problem. But the very minute you just you know, you just touch them, leave your elbow against them, they start shouting immediately. And Valenza Rima was the greatest for that. It was just unbelievable in the last 30-40 kilometres.
More people climb foul than were going for it. Right, you're watching the stage coming here, stage 17 on the Tour of Italy, from Salette Terme to Asti, 117 kilometres today, 73 miles in English money, and the riders, as Sean was saying, they're getting a bit sort of exasperated what was going on, but the discussion lane was from Gaillant, past winner of the Paris-Roubaix, and he wasn't too happy with things going up there, but yes, we've seen some pushing and shoving this race so far. We've seen McEwen, who's now retired from the race. He was chucked off his first spot. We saw Nados shoving this fellow here in the Ciclamino clothing, Petacchi, and he got thrown off the race too as well. We saw Cipollini taken out in a slide on a nasty turn. So there's been many things for the sprinters at the front have been in there getting stuck into. Brown on one of the sprints, he was also pushing and shoving, and I said something naughty on television. I was there riding with him. I know Brown is language, and so unfortunately I expressed the sentiments of Mr. Brown, who was not happy with somebody trying to take his point of view. But we've lost one or two of the more hurly-burly sprinters, because as we saw the other day, Sean, gives appeal like Sherrada, who's one of the most experienced sprinters. We haven't mentioned him so far. The way he came through the other day, he's been biding his time. So presumably, would he go into this race and say, right, I'll let the big guys fall off or go home or get sick, and now it's my turn? Because he's been going well. We saw him just down there, didn't we, eh?
Yes, well, that's something maybe comes into the race, you know, not in his best of form, and it's getting better as the race go on. And you know, we see him up there. So I think with some of the better guys going home as well, it's a chance for those guys who are not really top sprinters.
Still, the pushing and shoving is yet to come, the real serious stuff. They're just sort of positioning themselves with less than 5 kilometres to go on this stage 17, Salice Terme into Asti, a flat stage today, just a third cat climb, and the action then just down the road when the Intergiallo was taken by Magnus Baxter. You're seeing on his screen there on the right hand side, there's the British champion. Oh, he's gone now, Julian Wim from Cardiff. By the way, Cardiff, book your seats now. If I could just whip it in there, we'll talk about it the next few days, because there's not much cycling on television on Eurosport after the Tour of Italy. But if you want to go and actually see the National Championship, it's going to be held then on the 28th and 29th in Newport, and that is a chance for is a chance for Julian Wim to keep his jersey. And on the Saturday they have the women's race on the same course, while on Sunday they're going to have another one too as well. And this is going to be sponsored by the Celtic Manor charity challenge they're going to have as well for the British Heart Foundation during these great events, which are also going to be sponsored by Celtic Manor. So our national championships based on a 22-mile hilly circuit, then they come on a 7-mile finishing circuit within the 1,400-acre Celtic Manor estate. That's going to be on the 28th and 29th of June. And of course you can go down there not only to see the British champion, current champion, defending his jersey, Julian Win, who comes from Abergavenny just down the road, but also to see Nicole Cook riding too as well. We'll build that up later on, because it looks like it's going to be a great opportunity for Julian Win, who, when we talked to him on the Paris-Nice, Sean, who would have thought they'd be riding as well as this? I think, to me, obviously he's one of the revelations of the race, but it's good to see this after 30 years of age. Was as Gassi was riding in the Paris-Nice and sat with him and talked, and here he is in this little lot, eh?
Yes, well, he's made you know, a huge improvement, because in Paris-Nice he said the racing was much more competitive, much more difficult, but he's adapted quite well. And you know, to be I don't think in the Paris-Nice he would have have any dreams about going to the Giro, but here he is getting to the Giro quite well. So you know, a great performance by Julian.
And what about Mark Scanlon? Chance of riding in the Tour this year, do you think?
Well, the team has qualified for the Tour. I don't know if Mark will qualify, will ride the Tour this year. I don't think he will in his first year. I think it would be a little bit heavy for him, because you know, later on the season I think there's a lot better race where he would have much better chance of you know, showing himself.
Right, let's go from the domestic side, looking after the Irish and the English, and of course the Scots with David Miller, who's come back good with that Tour of Picardy. Pick up the race now inside the final 3 kilometres.
Yes, as we see the team, Cipollini's team are on the front there, and that of course is for Lombardi, who is you know, who is quite strong in the sprint. But we see also the Francaise Jou team moving up there. So with Casper, of course, you know, in quite good shape, and as we said, as I said earlier on, I think is a stage that he could very well pull off. But I think Petacchi, you know, is going to be the man to beat once again.
But where are the riders looking after Sherrada in the blue and the sort of pinky colours? Can't spot him yet. Will he come up on his own?
Well, Sforada is a guy who, you know, seems to follow the other sprinters. I think that's his style of sprinting, and we've seen him a number of occasions where he just hangs about there in the top 8 or 10 riders and just takes a wheel of some of the good sprinters.
And there's one of his teammates, or was that him coming just off the bottom of our screen? Oh, oops! Slight touch. No. Yes. No. Oof.
Casper and Petacchi are having a little bit of a bargee here for the wheel of one of the other Faso Bortolo riders.
That wasn't anything serious, was it? It was just sort of a...
No, it wasn't anything serious for the moment, but you know, if it goes on and goes on, sometimes it can get quite heavy. You know, after
He's only a little guy, though.
After a number of bumps together.
He's a little guy. He'd come under his arm and he wouldn't know he'd be there.
Well, some of the little guys are the most problematic. You know, they can become very, and as I said about McEwen, he can be very, very niggly there in the finish, and we've seen him a number of times in different sprints.
Here we are then, 1 kilometre to go for the riders. They're sweeping in. They've got a sharp turn to make a right-hand turn, which will get them about 600 metres. They're going to swing round, and that's coming up just in front of them. Also in there, let's not forget then Furlan working hard. Probably for Baldato, wears one on his back. Baldato in those colours, Alacia, red, white and blue, who took over the victory when McEwen got disqualified the other day. And here they start to warm it up, and still on the front it looks like the lead out has happened, and there's nobody there. There's one man from Faso Bortolo, and right is behind his Petacchi, and so he's getting a beautiful lead out. He's still got, I think, Lombardi on his wheel, and behind Lombardi, Jimmy Casper. So still we've got Petacchi, Lombardi, Jimmy Casper, and on the far side, this could be Eisel from the FDJ, who suddenly got off there, catching everybody napping. Eisel's got 76 on his back, but no, Petacchi is going to get it on the line, or is he? As Serrada comes at him, and he closes him on the line. Well, Sean, who got that one?
I would hate to pull it there. It's Serrada was coming very, very quickly, and I would say Petacchi just about made it.
We'll get action replay, and that was a heck of a sprint. And we were saying early on that where was Serrada? Well, it looks like he was going to be the first or second, but he seemed to come from nowhere. But the unusual, if you look back at the tactics there, it did seem that another...
Relativ hohe Geschwindigkeit wieder. Ja, es reicht für Petacchi.
Jetzt könnten wir das Bild mal durchlaufen lassen.
Ja, halbe Radlänge war das Vorsprung, also halbe Vorderradbreite. Und Petacchi wird abgeschirmt. Also die Reihenfolge wird bestätigt, aber was dahinter passiert, also vor allen Dingen diese Situation. War das Bernhard Eisel, der nochmal nach vorn kam mit einem Wahnsinnstempo an Casper vorbeiging, und die Frage war dann, wollte er ihn ins Schlepptau nehmen oder wollte er den Überraschungsmoment selbst nutzen? Wenn wir die Einstellung von der Hubschrauberkamera sehen, vielleicht achten Sie mal auf die rechte Seite hinter Lombardi. Der war am Hinterrad von Petacchi. Ja, die letzte Kurve hat schon alles eigentlich geregelt für Petacchi. Er hatte ein bisschen Vorsprung, von dem er zehren konnte. Denn wenn die anderen nicht hätten ranfahren müssen, Furlan, Riebenbauer, Casper, Iliano, Palumbo. Das heißt also, die Mannschaft von Denardi Kolpak geht fast leer aus. Palumbo der Beste. Iliano fährt ja für die... Da, Achtung! Müsste Eisel sein, ne? Rechts. Und jetzt hat er aus Versehen Svorada ans Hinterrad genommen. In der Mitte Furlan, ganz vorne Petacchi, dann Svorada, links Lombardi. Es reicht also nicht. Die Sprintschnelligkeit reicht nicht für Lombardi. Und Petacchi weiß im Augenblick der Überquerung des Zielstrichs, dass er gewonnen hat. Da Riebenbauer, ganz oben am Bild, rechts am Bildrand jetzt.
Also einfach mal probieren und die Mannschaftstaktik auf diese geschlossene Fahrweise auslegen. Das funktioniert eben nicht. Das haben wir heute gesehen im Team FDJ.com um Jimmy Casper. Da wollte man
jetzt rechts ist da.
So, da wollte man ihm den Sprint richtig anziehen, hat es gut gemeint. Der hat nicht richtig reagiert, nicht schnell genug reagiert, weil er einfach nicht damit gerechnet hat. Und da war es eben auch nichts. Es bedarf doch einer gewissen Übung, bevor man solche Etappen am Ende so gestalten kann, wie es immer wieder als Paradebeispiel vom Team Domina Vacanze gezeigt wird, um Mario Cipollini oder eben auch in den Jahren zuvor in der Mannschaft Saeco. Hier sehen wir noch einmal die Situation. Jetzt versucht er mit Svorada, klar, das hat er richtig gemacht. Auch Angelo Furlan wollte mitgehen, bleibt am Hinterrad, hat genau gemerkt, Jan Svorada, da kommt einer richtig schnell von hinten, nicht zu schnell. ich kann immer noch mitfahren. Und damit hat er das richtige Hinterrad erwischt. Und schauen Sie, er hat es ja geschafft, wäre fast an Petacchi vorbei, noch 50 Meter länger. Und er hätte heute seine erste Etappe beim diesjährigen Giro gewonnen. Petacchi bekommt wieder einmal 25 Punkte für das Maglia Ciclamino hinzugeschrieben. Und damit ist er, ja, ich überschlage es noch einmal, er hatte 208 Punkte. Und er hat jetzt insgesamt 233 Zähler. Der Zweitplatzierte Stefano Garzelli, ich weiß nicht, ob er heute Punkte bekommen hat, aber damit ist er der Mann an der Spitze. 4 Etappen stehen noch aus. Pro Etappe gibt es 25 Punkte. Also der Mann hat sozusagen alles im Sack. Dieses Trikot gewinnt er. Im letzten Jahr war es Mario Cipollini, der fleißigste Punktesammler war.
Aber was mich erstaunt hat, in etwa 25. bis 30. Position ein Fahrer von Fassa Bortolo, der die Arme hochreißt, hat der ein Scherenfernrohr dabei, dass der so weit nach vorn sehen kann und bei einer so knappen Entscheidung sieht, dass Petacchi gewonnen hat, oder hat er sich einfach danach gerichtet, dass der den Arm hoch ist?
Ja, der weiß ganz genau, auf diesen Mann ist Verlass. Die Gesamtwertung, Gilberto Simoni immer noch mit knapp 2 Minuten Vorsprung vor seinem Landsmann Stefano Garzelli. Jaroslav Popovic, Andrea Noé. Blicken wir weiter nach unten. Dort haben wir den Österreicher Georg Tocznik als 7. in der Gesamtwertung. Und daran wird sich vielleicht morgen etwas ändern, denn es geht bergauf mit dem Giro d'Italia. Morgen die 4. von 5 Bergankünften und am Freitag geht es gerade so weiter.
Also mit dem Asti Spumante wird es auch heute nichts, weil natürlich Tennis drängt, ganz klar. Vom Rosa Giro geben wir dann bald wieder ab zum roten Sand von Paris, zum Turnier in Roland Garros.
Die ganz große Spannung beim Giro, die kommt morgen und übermorgen wieder auf, denn es ist jeweils eine Bergankunft. Am Sonntag geht der Giro zu Ende. Wir bei Eurosport sind jeden Tag drauf ab 15:30 Uhr. Vielen Dank erstmal Uli Jantsch und Carsten Miegels. Und jetzt zurück zum Tennis. Rainer Schüttler hat es geschafft. Nikola Kiefer will es ihm nachmachen. Er steht jetzt im 3. Satz. Mein Kollege Jürgen Höttger sollte